Well said. I think that when we approach this as some magical book, you're right. We're going to miss the human side. I think there's a lot more wonder and beauty in the human side of the Bible than the magical side, trying to act like it's this purely, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, one of the things, like one of the big differences between the J author, the Yahwist, and in particular, the author of P, the priestly author, is their perspective of who God is and how he interacts with people. And you can see this. I did this in my evidence video. I took a look at the story of Abraham and Hagar, the doublets, the one written by J, the other one written by P, that appear in Genesis 6. I think it's Genesis 16 and Genesis 26. I might be wrong there about the chapters. But one of the things that's really interesting in that story is, like, Hagar, Sarah becomes jealous of Hagar. And in the one story, she tells Abraham to get rid of her and her son Ishmael. In the other story, Hagar's still pregnant, and Abraham is super callous, and he's like, I don't care. Do whatever you want with her because you're mad about her. And so she treats her really poorly, so much so that Hagar runs away, right? And she ends up in the wilderness, and in both stories she has an encounter with God. But what's really interesting is in the J account, when you read it, it sounds like God was, it says the angel of Yahweh encountered her at this well in such a way that if you're kind of picturing it, you can see him just kind of strolling along. You know, he's walking there and, here's Hagar. Let's have a conversation, a face-to-face conversation with Hagar about what's going on. This is very typical of J. God just kind of walks around among people. He has face-to-face interactions with people as an ordinary human being would. When you get to the peace story, she doesn't encounter anybody at the well. She's in the desert, and the well is actually the spring is revealed to her by God, but the angel of God doesn't come up and have a conversation with her. He speaks to her out of the sky. Like, this is a fundamentally different perspective who God is and how he interacts with people. You know, you see it in the creation story, the P creation story. God just speaks everything into existence. In the J creation story, he gets down in the dirt and he plants a garden, right? He literally says he molds the people and the animals out of clay. He does, invasive psychosurgery on the man by pulling the rib out and shapes it. It says it builds. The Hebrew word is he builds a woman out of this rib. And then later in the story, he's walking around in the garden. Yeah. And, and he has to go, where are you? I don't know where you are. He's the God, the whole perspective of who God is totally different. And if you don't catch this, you're gonna miss a lot of really important stuff that's there within the text.
This is so awesome because this cuts through the heart of these positions that have come up, these denominations, Calvinism and Arminianism and open theism, and trying to rectify, like, does God know the future? Is that an anthropomorphism? Like this, when you know these sources, it cuts all that. It undermines every single one of these ridiculous, like, I have the answer of understanding how God works, and the big picture of the whole canon. No, you don't. You don't know what you're talking about. I used to be a Calvinist. Before that, I was an Arminian type Christian, and I was wrong on both ends. Like just trying to get my picture fit, you know.
But Derek, the other thing this does is this provides an argument to all of these people, because there's a text in Scripture from which you can build a position about just about anything.
Yep.
And what I like to call the dispute or the ongoing dialogue between the various voices within the text. This is what prompts people to take strong positions on these things, because you can make just as compelling a case for Arminianism from the text as you can for Calvinism from the text. And I don't know if you've ever watched any of these Arminian versus Calvinism debates on live or on YouTube, but they're absolutely idiotic for this reason, because the Calvinist stands up and goes, here's all the Scripture about why Calvinism is true. The Arminian gets up and says, here's all the Scripture that says why Arminianism is true. What do you do with that? You just end up talking past each other. I really like something that I greatly appreciate about the rabbis is that they had a strong sense of this in their own text. They saw that there's different voices at work, and we're not going to mute any of them because they're all in there. But we're also not going to ever answer some of these questions. So when you read rabbinic dialogues in the Talmud, they're so open-ended. They just kind of go in three different directions and never resolve anything.
I think I saw a debate discussion with Dr. Christine Hayes with an actual rabbinic Jew on the Talmud and what we should do. And the Jew's response was, look, this is for about practical living, pragmatic approach to the world around us. And we're not going to answer the when, why, where, because then you're actually taking away from the pragmatic. And she said, I'm sorry, but I feel like I have a religious experience just from discovering the when, the where, the why did they say this? Like for her, it's like you and me, like the new religious experience that we have. And I use that term, not meaning it in the literal sense. It's like Christians go, I had a warm and fuzzy. Well, when I find out God was a man walking around, and then I find out he's a voice up here, then that's like, oh, I just got that, like, whoa, you know what I'm talking about? It's like a fuzzy feeling.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, I like those fuzzy feelings too. Those are great. So, but yeah, I mean, the Bible is super complex, and it's loaded with all sorts of different voices and different perspectives. And the absolute wrong thing to do is to attempt to harmonize these, as opposed to trying to understand where these people were coming from and why they thought the way they did, why they took the positions they did, who they were speaking against. One of the things I did my PhD working with the book of Jeremiah and with some of the Dead Sea Scrolls that provide a very, very interesting interpretation on Jeremiah the man, and so the texts attributed to him. Something that I think is really neat, like in Jeremiah chapter 4, he actually quotes from, it's pretty obvious that he's drawing from the Genesis 1 creation account. So we know he knew this text, and this is one of the ways where I think we could be pretty confident that P was not post-exilic, or at least this text of P was not post-exilic. Maybe parts of it were, but there was certainly a kernel in there that Jeremiah knew.
You're dating now, and that's complicated. A lot of people don't really like to date, but your suggestion is prior to the exile, peace, something of peace floating around.
I'll just say something of the creation story is floating around. Because Jeremiah knows it. He alludes to it. It's not a direct quotation, but it's neat what he does. Actually, let me see if I can just pull it up here. It's in Jeremiah chapter 4. And this is something, so this is one of the things that Michael Jones in his video actually draws from to say Genesis is super ancient because Jeremiah knows Genesis.